Alright, welcome back learners in another learning bite from Nitish Sharma Global Tech, and today I'm your host and trainer Kuldeep for CCI EI, and some of the topics that we are going to cover today are going to be related this new buzz, not new I will say, but from last quite some time. It is out there, right? Ruling our industry in all kind of networks. So that is SDN, right? You are all aware of that. So not maybe to the exact terms, but by some different name maybe, as we know them. So some people call it software-defined networking, some people call it controller-based networking, or this, and this. So it is like talking about an elephant. This is the tail of the elephant. These are the ears, the nose, and the trunk of the elephant. But what actually is the elephant? That the general technology that we are going to talk about today. We are going to demystify some of the myths around it, and we are going to see how it is implemented, some historical points, how it is actually helping us out today as network engineers, project managers, and as well as the core management people. We'll see some of the benefits given by SDN, by its emerging and with the integration of the existing technologies and the networks. So those are some of the points we are going to touch. And yes, when I say SDN, we'll try to get into the exact technologies. I don't want you guys to be wasting your time just to understand some theory concepts which are out there, outlined, and not helping us in any way. So I want to say that when I say SDN, you should be taking with you some keywords from here. So when I say, especially from Cisco, because most of my time is spent in the training and R&D of Cisco, that's why I can relate better to that. But yes, this is where I say a word, SD-WAN, all right? And then I'll say a word, SDA, one thing. And the last I want to say is my ACI. To me, as a network engineer or a project manager, these three keywords or key technologies are that helps me to understand and define SDN. So I'll take the reference of these three technologies, and then I'll see, okay, what actually is SDN, how it is helping, and what problem it is solving, and where we are heading in the future as well. So talking about these three products, they are the result of Cisco's way of looking at the same problem, but with a different angle. So at the starting of the early, I should say 2010, when there was a project called, if I'm not wrong, OpenFlow. So many people, if you remember the Linux project development in early 80s or whatsoever, when Linus Torvald took this hobby project for his intern or internship, or I don't know, it was his project idea or something, but he developed something revolutionary there. And that was adopted worldwide as a Linux operating system. Something the industry leaders, they've thought, if we will keep doing the networking in a way we are doing from last 30-40 years, then we are wasting our time reinventing the wheel. Either it is Cisco, either it is Juniper, Huawei, whoever is out there dealing with the networking problems and developing solutions, they are saying, okay, let's come together. So around that time, before, I will say, after 2005, you can say the ideas were started to emerge and people started to talk about that. Around, I'm not sure about the timeline, and I don't need to be, you don't need to be, because I need to be, here when I actually come to the implementation and helping my network to take benefit of all this SDN part. But now coming back, why this historical point help us to understand or this technology in general? Because it will give me that, okay, from where I started and where we are heading. Just on that note, I'm just trying to give you some background on this. We started with a single, and now I introduce another key term here. So that is my API. So one thing is IBN, and then I have something called API. Just be with me for some time and we'll see what those actually are. So this OpenFlow, they started with this idea that, okay, earlier, you all know the general introduction, general idea about SDN, that if I have a number of devices in a network, for example, 200 switches you need to configure and manage. Earlier, you need to take either Telnet SSH if you are managing remotely, or for the first time, you are taking the console access. So it takes time, right? So time is money, cost, and you may make some errors, some mistake, human mistakes, right? So the errors. So it leads us to some misconfig which take the time for T-shoot. Again, I'm saying time is money. So it gets my investment and it gets me rolling on for the longer period. So if I'm kind of deploying a new project, if it was taking 3 months, due to these human factors, it may take 4, 5, or even worst cases, double amount of time. Now, in OpenFlow, what they kind of conceptualized, okay, I have this network. Now, I will not treat this network based on the devices here. No, I'll treat this entire network as an entity, and I'll not program or configure my separate devices, but this network as a whole. So this API, which is the southbound interface API, I'll talk about in a moment, but this helps me from the help of a controller. If you can see that, you guys, with the help of a controller, and that controller using this API is configuring and managing my devices all together with a single click. So yes, that's where the idea started from. So people gathered, they exchanged ideas, they invested money and time. Around 2010, they developed a controller, I believe ODL or something, Open Daylight Controller, and that everybody took a chunk of that technology and they built their own solution. What Cisco went ahead one step from the market, they said, we are not going to design a single controller for all kind of network. No, each kind of network has a different problem set, and we need to define different solution set for that. So that identified that I have one enterprise or campus kind of network, all right? Then they say, or you know, that we have a data center kind of network, and we also have the WAN. These are 3 major kind of networks we have out there. So either you are using internet, you are trying to access some legacy application in your data center. So you'll be around, evolving or revolving around these 3 kind of network. You are using the internet at your home. You are using the internet side of the WAN. All right. If you are working in a company and you are accessing some printer, so maybe it comes under some LAN, small LAN, SOHO, small office, home office, or some large scale bigger network that is enterprise network. You can be in some educational institutes, some university, some college. But the point being, all of our big network or all kind of networks out there, the data communication network, they fall under these 3 umbrella terms, by the way. Now, Cisco is saying that if I want to automate the network, or in other words, if I say the same kind of concept used here, if I want to configure my network as one entity, not all my devices one by one all together, so let's develop separate controllers for separate kind of networks. So that's what Cisco call by a name of intent-based networking. And in the intent-based networking, what they did, they said, okay, because each network has a different challenge and it needs different solution. For campus, we are going to provide a different solution. For data center, we are going to provide a different solution. For WAN, we are going to provide a different solution. What solution they provided here? The name of the automation solution. So I'm saying the name of the solution only. So that is your software defined access here. For data center, they named it application centric infrastructure. And for WAN, they called it SD-WAN. We have a long history for SD-WAN naming. Earlier, Cisco started with something else, which was IWAN, intelligent WAN. Then they took over with Tela. I believe this will talk about in a separate video later on. So this, let's keep it just about the introduction part. So yes, coming back. So these are my solution names, this one, and this one. But yes, as I said, based on the intent, they said different controllers. So okay, for SDA, they designed a controller called DNAC, Cisco DNAC. Especially I'm talking about Cisco products, all right? To give you an understanding of the general term SDN. I hope that's clear with you guys. You can take the example of any other vendor out there, because again, I'm saying most of the time is spent in, understanding and developing and researching the technologies of Cisco only. So I'm talking about that to give you one reference. But yes, DNAC, now it is known as Cisco Catalyst Center. It has been renamed, rebranded by Cisco from last quite some time. But all right, this is the name of the solution. This is the name of actual controller product out there, given and designed by Cisco. All right, coming back to ACI, they have this Epic controller. And coming back to SD-WAN, because SD-WAN, the WAN section itself is so huge, complex, lengthy and everything. So they said, okay, not develop single controller, let's define 3 for different purposes, which I'll talk about again in some another bite. But yes, I have my vSmart controller having different purpose, my vBond controller serving a different need, and my vManage, like the boss in here for SD-WAN. So as a whole, I believe what we have talked about, that this is the kind of product family Cisco has, and we have just touched the historical aspect of that. In the later videos, maybe we'll try to see as a whole how this SDN is going to help us in what? In saving the cost, the time, the frustration, which can be leveraged somewhere else to design not something new or develop something new, and how it actually is implemented and how it actually works. So I hope this chunk of learning has been useful to you. I enjoyed it, and I hope you did the same. Please let us know in the comments, and if you find it useful, share it in your circle. Everybody can be helped. And see, this is the future, all right, we are talking about here. If you are out there or you want to be out there in the networking industry as an aspirant or want to get a growth career, I don't know, this is everything. People can see only talking about SDN and SDN today. In every network type can be different, so the product and solution can be different. But we as network engineers, I don't know, we should be prepared for whatever is coming off. Okay, we need to say goodbye to the technologies that has gone and say hi to the technologies which are future. So on that note, I'm saying goodbye for today's lecture, and I'll see you in some other one.